order at this point. The select board for the date of September 10th of 2018. Remind people we are being recorded. While the acoustics have improved in here, it's still worthwhile speaking up so all can hear. Identify yourself and your residence. We do have a quorum tonight. Alice is not present as she's traveling out of the country. So I will begin with the consent agenda. We have the town accountant warrants, the Sunday entertainment license for Emerson Umbrella for September 23rd, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., 40 Stowe Street Theater, gift acceptance, linear retail of $1,030.50 to the Cafe Nero Bike Rack gift account, and one-day special licenses, AV United Way for December 1st, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., 246 Hornack, all alcohol. The Concord Women's Chorus on November 3rd, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., 81 Elm Street, wine and malt. Rotary Club of Concord, September 29th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., 11 Wheeler Road, wine and malt. The Saltbox Farm, September 22nd, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., 40 Westford Road, wine and malt. Emerson Umbrella, September 21st and September 22nd, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., 57 Hornack, wine and malt. And also Emerson Umbrella, September 23rd, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., 57 Hornack, wine and malt.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Chris, town manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Relative to the state primary election last Tuesday, the town clerk reported that more than 40% of Concord's registered voters turned out to vote.
Is that a record?
I don't know if she didn't mention whether it was a record. It was very high turnout for a primary. But the race for the 3rd congressional seat among the Democratic candidates is close, with Lori Trahan holding about 130 vote lead currently, and it looks likely that a recount for that seat will be required.
They announced that
They
today.
announced they were going to do it.
And that is at the town's expense. This is what we have to do for the recount.
That's right.
Every town, right?
Yeah,
So all the-
Each
yeah,
town, right, that's for their own recount.
And it shouldn't be too expensive because we have the
Yeah,
electronic voting backed by
and I
documents.
think there's a lot of volunteers who participate in it.
Relative to the October 1st special town meeting, the 13 article warrant is back from the printers. It will be in mailboxes tomorrow before the public hearing on Wednesday, which is scheduled for 7 p.m. in the hearing room of the townhouse. This will be the first try of the new video and audio equipment in the hearing room, so we hope that goes well. There's a joint meeting of the West Concord Advisory Committee and the Planning Board tomorrow night, September 11th. The agenda includes discussion of the Planning Board's goals for the coming year and potential bylaw amendments for the West Concord zoning districts that might be considered at annual town meeting in April. The CSEC, Comprehensive Sustainable Energy Committee, is hosting an electric vehicle showcase at Walden Pond on Saturday the 15th. Folks can try out, test drive electric vehicles and learn a lot more about them. The state is trying to promote, and our local committee is trying to promote electric vehicle ownership.
And aren't we the new owner of?
An electric vehicle paid for by the Green Communities Grant, parked out behind this building, available for staff to drive during the day. Delia is accepting bids. Delia, the Natural Resources Director, for the construction of a 3-car parking lot behind the Citizens Bank on West Concord at 36A Baker Avenue for a picnic area and canoe launch. All bids will be open on Wednesday. Cambridge Turnpike reconstruction is getting started in earnest this week, and probably you'll see lane closures and they're laying out the hay bales. It's well, probably it'll probably start Thursday. They expect the water line to start with water line construction, so there will be disruption. Kaiser Road parking lot, the west side closest to the burial ground was paved this week, and reconstruction of the east side lot will begin later this week. Verizon is on your agenda for the 24th, as you're well aware. Relative to the Giroux land, 2 public forums have been planned. One was held on a very hot night, August 28th, and 50 attendees were there, and a lot of good comments were received. The second forum was originally scheduled for the 17th of September, but the assistant town manager is suggesting it be postponed until after the special town meeting, allow some more time for the comments to be evaluated, and so the tentative rescheduled date is Tuesday, October 16th at 7 p.m. in the hearing room of the townhouse. Commonwealth Avenue and Main Street intersection we heard a lot about. I think we got about a dozen emails and a few phone calls expressing concern about the intersection geometry as a result of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail changes. We have been in touch with the state's design engineer from Greenman Peterson and came up with a suggestion that perhaps 4 feet could be cut off that curb, which would allow tractor trailers. Fire engines are fine, school buses, those types of vehicles are getting through okay. It's the large tractor trailers that might go up onto the sidewalk and perhaps endanger pedestrians if the geometry is left as it is. So we are going to be suggesting, we think, that Mass DOT shave off about 4 feet. It may still have an impact on 2 parking spaces in front of Woods Hill Table Restaurant, where the larger vehicles also cannot negotiate in that area, making that turn.
That would be at their cost, anything?
That's our hope. They're paying for they paid for the design, and it really didn't work. When they redid the design with the larger vehicles in mind, it clearly doesn't work. Pam Hill has announced her plans to step down from the Massport Community Advisory Committee after 4 years of service, so we'll be looking for someone to sit on that Community Advisory Committee and advise both the Massport Board and the Governor on matters concerning Massport activities, specifically Hanscom Field in our area.
And whose appointment is it?
The town manager. The biennial citizen survey, it will be mailed out on September 20th. 1 survey per household, but citizens can respond either online, filling out the form in writing, or calling, and the finance department staff will take down people's comments in response to the survey. The Public Works Department will host a Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on the 19th, September 19th, from 4 to 7. It's usually very popular, sometimes over 100 cars visit. The Harvey Wheeler Centennial Celebration is Friday the 21st at 6:30 at the Harvey Wheeler Center. And lastly, Fire Chief Tom Judge, as Emergency Management Director, is keeping an eye on the hurricane. Hopefully it stays south of us, but we may probably get some rain out of it if it turns north. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody have any questions or? No? Thank you. I have a couple. First of all, was notified by the Boy Scout Troop 132 that there are 2 members of the Concord community, Will Duggan and Michael John Flannery, who have been able to reach the as an Eagle Scout, and with the board's permission, I will write them each a letter of congratulations. The letter of support for the application for the EPA award regarding the Envision Concord plan had been sent out in a timely manner, and a copy was included in the clipboard.
And that's really important because we are one of we're the first town in Massachusetts, and we're probably, I think we're the only town of our municipality of our size to have fulfilled the EPA sustainability requirements, or their new practice guidelines under long-range planning.
I think the state does encourage communities, or reward communities who are inactive in doing these things, so hopefully it will benefit us.
Absolutely.
I also think it's important that we did get a notice from the Mass Department of Public Health that the West Nile virus has been detected in mosquitoes collected in Concord, so be on the lookout. I gather Ag Day on Saturday was successful, and we had a substantial presence from the Select Board. Just announced that October 20th there's going to be a forum on effective governance for the town committee, boards, and commission volunteers. With that, we have proceed to our meeting. The 2 I think, main articles are the special town meeting articles and the dog feasibility study, but we will proceed with the public hearing scheduled for 7:05, which is petition of the Concord Municipal Light to relocate utility pole at 5 Hyde Road in accordance with the plan dated August 29th, 2018, filed with the select board.
I move to open public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening.
Good evening. Jeff Cosgrove, electrical engineer from the Town of Concord Light Department. Town manager, chair, members of the board, Mr. Merrill. I'm here with myself and
Jim White, owner of Concord Market.
we're here to present just along Kai's Road. This is part of the Concord Market project, and there's a street light. It's classified as utility pole number 5. There are no overhead cables or conductors along the road at this time, but what's left there is the street light. And with the new Concord Market project and the existing and proposed parking lot and structure, we're looking to relocate the pole to make way for the new parking area, about 25 feet approximately west of its existing location.
See the petition, it looked as if everything was in order, and I don't know whether there are any questions of any member of the board.
Seems rather straightforward.
Yeah. It's interesting we have to go through this process, but it's always a good idea to do so.
For migrating utility poles.
Exactly. I don't know if there are any public comments. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I do have a question of Mr. Wright's.
Yes.
When is the market gonna open?
You know, I knew you were gonna ask that question. We're hoping to open it sometime this month.
Great.
Good. It's looking, coming along, it's looking,
The architects did a wonderful job on
coming along.
the building.
And I assume that this light will shed, this pole will shed more light on the parking area?
Yes.
Yes, or the entrance there.
Correct.
Have a motion?
Okay. I move to grant permission to install overhead coaxial cable to be owned by Comcast of Massachusetts.
No,
I
I
jumped to the wrong one.
Yeah, one before.
Nice
All right,
try.
I move to grant permission to relocate the utility pole, 5 Kai's Road, to be owned by Concord Municipal Light as requested in the petition plan number 08292018, received August 29th, 2018, and subject to conditions recommended by the Concord Public Works and Concord Municipal Light Plan.
Second?
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Stand on that. Sure.
Twofer.
Now we
I attempted it too far.
have another public hearing, a grant of location Comcast of Massachusetts 3 Inc. for installation of coaxial cable from utility pole 23 Old Bedford Road to utility 4 Merriam Road.
I move to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Greg Franks on behalf of Comcast, and I'm here in support of our petition to place overhead coaxial cables to serve 120 Merriam Road, and we would be running them from utility pole 23 on Old Bedford
Excuse
Road.
me, can I ask you to speak up? I'm very hard of hearing, and it would help if you could speak a little louder.
Not at all. I don't mind at all. My petition is to place overhead coaxial cables from utility pole 23 on Old Bedford Road to utility pole number 4 on Merriam Road to serve the property at 120 Merriam Road, which is a town elementary school.
This is the Ripley Administration Building.
It's my understanding that a site walk occurred on Friday, perhaps with Mr. Cosgrove. I have had an opportunity to see the proposed conditions, which are the usual conditions, and of course Comcast is prepared to fulfill them completely. And I welcome any questions that you might have.
Just for the record, the preconditions was the pre-hearing site visit, which I understand, as you said, just has already occurred. There's be installed using common industry standards, and minimum separation and clearance requirement is described by the most recent National Electric Safety Code, must be maintained between Comcast infrastructure and existing overhead facilities. The applicant must remove any infrastructure deemed obsolete as a result of this project, and as-built plans must be provided to the Concord Public Work and Concord Light Plant Engineering prior to the final closeout of the project. Those are all what your understanding were?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any other questions?
Can I just ask a question? The school administration is under the impression this is fiber optic cable, but the petition is for coax. Is there?
Well, what's on the pole is going to be coaxial cable.
Mhm.
What actually goes into the building may be fiber optic.
Okay, so what's going on the pole is coax. Okay. And this is at the request of the school administration. They're going to use it for their network connection of their school buildings.
Does the public have any comments
I
tonight?
do indeed.
Okay,
Uh,
please, if you would come forward and identify yourself.
All right.
and,
John Flynn, 46 Miriam Road, and pole 4 is directly in front of my house. I had Verizon for a long time, and I had serious problems with my internet. So a couple months ago, I went with Comcast and said, and my phone usually doesn't work. So anything you can do to make that a little bit better. Internet, we have a lot of problems. TV, we have some problems. My phone, I don't know, people don't call us on the phone anymore because it's just not working. So anything you can do to make that situation better.
I'd like to know how you do that. People stop calling me on the phone. That'd be a
For
blessing.
a lot of reasons, perhaps. But, at any rate, you know, in spite of that,
Have you called Comcast, and what do they say?
I think Comcast really does try, but they're just not able to really resolve problems. You know, it's like so much of, you know, government or anything. You call, they try to help, but they really, really can't. You know, they're better than Verizon. They try a little better, but they just don't have it. And if you can make my phone work, God help us, that would be wonderful. So I'm leaving here right now, but make pole 4 work if you could, and I'd be happy to have you make a phone call for me, whenever you can.
I see you took note of that and appreciate that, so whatever you could do, obviously, you'd have more than one person happy about it.
Can you wait for me? Can you
Especially
wait?
as the host
Yeah, I
of
can indeed,
pole
yes.
4.
Anybody else have a comment? That I would.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we now have another motion.
I move to grant permission to install overhead coaxial cable to be owned by Comcast of Massachusetts 3, Inc., as requested in the petition plan marked aerial cable placement request, received August 20th, 2018, and subject to conditions recommended by Concord Public Works and Concord Municipal Light Plant.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
We now move to number 7, which is change of operation, Rapscallion 208 Pittsburgh Turnpike. This is not a public hearing, it just needs the approval of the board. We have within the package a change of operation of the hours. I think Sunday they're opening a half hour earlier, and will be opened on Monday, their hours of 11:30 to 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Among the documents we received was police approval, that they're in compliance with TIP and no recorded violations.
And what it doesn't show is what this is a move from.
The change of operations, the above items. current operation.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was,
Yeah.
so they really don't,
It's just staying open on Monday, or
Right.
opening on Monday,
Monday.
and coming it looks to be, a half hour earlier on both Saturday and Sunday.
and how many, other, restaurants are open at 11 a.m. that serve alcohol in Concord?
Vast majority.
That's what.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah, nothing, there's nothing unusual with this request. It was, I spoke to, the police department. They've reported no violations there. All the bartenders have the up-to-date tips, alcohol service training. And I also spoke to Susan Rass, the health director, and she saw no issue with food service at that time as well.
so it looks like they're doing well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
I don't know, any of the public have any comment on this? Otherwise, we are ready to have a vote on this.
Okay. Move to approve the change, of hours for Rapscallion Restaurant, located at 208 Fitchburg Turnpike.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We now amend the number 8, amend entertainment license of Trail Inn Cafe, 97 Laurel Road for a one-time event. And it sounds like there's going to be soft, live, or recorded music, guest speakers, bar games such as trivia. And we do have a document that shows the floor plan, the details of the event, and the crowd control manager.
Is this the annual dancing?
Well, I'm not sure if it's annual, but it's.
Well, I seem to remember it before, and I
Yes.
kind of
Yeah,
love
it
it.
happened.
Yeah. And I would add, we also have the fire chief's approval of this. So that-
Can I ask a question? It was good. Nothing substantively to do with it. It has to do with why this isn't, is there a reason this doesn't show up on the consent agenda as a one-time?
It could.
It
certainly
could,
yeah.
just
No.
didn't.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions, anybody? Does the public have any comments or questions? I've not seen any. We're ready to have a motion.
I move to amend entertainment license for Trails End Cafe located at 97 Lowell Road to allow for one-time dancing event on September 15th, 2018, in accordance with the request submitted September 4th, 2018. Approval is in accordance with the following condition. 1, a crowd manager in compliance with Massachusetts Fire Code 527 CMR 1, section 20.1.5.6.1 shall be present at the event.
That's it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I think probably because of this crowd control manager issue, it makes some sense to at least have it.
Well, I don't want to waste a lot of time here tonight, but, you know, there are other things. For example, when there's no opposition to some of these public works events, and we had somebody, but he really wasn't complaining about what was on the agenda. It seems to me if there's no real issue and everybody's in agreement, if we
So
could
if
save people.
hearing is required, you have to have.
If
the
it's a hearing,
But
yeah.
in this case of this dancing, there was,
Yeah.
hearing was not required.
Thank you.
We are now ready to move to item number 9, the review of the dog park feasibility study committee preliminary report. I see we have a number of members of the committee. I don't know who will be addressing us, but I see the chair present. People pointing at her. Please come forward, Ann, if you would.
All righty, well, I think it would be a sort of a group effort, but I will certainly step forward. So,
Identify yourself. and
oh,
residence.
Ann Humphrey, 468 Old Bedford Road, Chair of the Concord Dog Park Feasibility Study Committee. By the time this ends, I'll have that rolling off my tongue. And we were tasked by you folks early in this year to look into the issues and feasibility of having dog parks in Concord, whether it was a good idea. I think you have that in your packet, the charge to us. And we've been moving along, looking at the various aspects, and we've had our first hearing for the public to ask for questions from them, what they think about dogs, dog parks, etc. in Concord, and we have come up with our preliminary report thanks to several of our members who've worked diligently to put this together. And we are now tasked with bringing our preliminary report to you to review, to ask us questions. And then we're going to be going to the public also for another hearing to sort of present this to the public. Again, see what they have to say, and then come up with a final, hopefully by early December, so we get this all wrapped up before the holidays.
As the liaison from the select board, I may be biased, but I thought it was a terrific report, very thorough, and I think the work that you all did was very thorough, so I'm very appreciative. I will open it up for others to question. They may have different issues that they would like to raise.
I thought it was a great report. Thank you and all the committee. It was terrific.
Everybody hand a hat.
Nice, easy to
Everybody
read,
hand it.
right to the point, no fooling around.
Good.
Have you set a date for the public hearing yet?
Well, we
You
wanted
should
to,
ask.
yeah, funny you should ask. We wanted to have it on October 24th, but I was told, or I think that's the 15 and 7 is 24, yes. But I was told by the town manager's office that all the various places that we would ask to have this meeting, they have put in the ballot boxes already for the midterm elections. So they're not eager to have us have a hearing there at that time. The other thought, we had originally thought about October 15th, but that's 17th, thank you. All right, sorry. That's putting, see how great my committee is? Anyway, but that is a little bit short on time for some of the things we might want to do, is if you have a lot of questions, comments to review and so on and so forth. We haven't really, because this came up recently, we haven't had a committee meeting to decide whether we might want to move it to early November or not. So that's the long answer. For the short answer is we don't have a definitive date. So I could poll them right now. I suppose we're in a.
No, I was just, if you had one, it was just a chance to announce it,
Right.
so.
I wish
perhaps
we could.
people
I
would
wish we
hear.
could. So.
What was the level, if any, of public attendance at your meetings? I'm just trying to gauge what level of.
In our actual meetings,
Yeah, because they're open meetings, and I was just curious as to how much.
7 total,
Yeah. And we met.
7 members of the
If
public.
you,
Can
probably
you
would
come
be
up to
helpful
the-
if you come up and,
Actually, I guess several of us could come up if you want. We could all.
why don't you put public hearings up if you need to?
Since we're a real team here, everybody has
I'll say it. Suzanne Jarrid, 61 Hubbard, speaking as a member of the committee. We had, I believe, 7 members of the public attend, 2 of whom left after discovering that we were not actually presenting our findings at one of the meetings. So it was very little public attendance.
But you had more when you had your public hearing.
Oh, yes.
The boardroom was about 35.
yes.
Right.
We tried to publicize it quite widely. We had 35 folks come. So
Can we just not only for the record, but so I know.
Yeah.
people-
Oh,
Can the other folks tell us who they are? So we-
Sure. I'm Deborah Richardson, 57 Harrington Avenue.
Deborah?
Bob Schulman, 680 Main Street.
Bob,
I'm Kate Stout, 266 Main Street.
thank you.
and as our select board chair said, that he is our liaison, so to the committee.
And is this the total committee? I don't.
No, we are missing 2 members. Jeff Young had to be out of town, and Tom
No, Don.
Don Showbreeze, who is our wonderful clerk. Yes, and clerk, and he has been instrumental. And let me just say that Suzanne looked at possible sites for dog parks, and everybody had a big role, a big hand in this. Kate was our wonderful wordsmith who typed all this up. and
Nicely done.
did our editing and great.
So can I ask you, when I read the report, and as I said, I thought it was, really well done. It sounded like a final report, so,
Right.
which is fine, I got no problem with that. But could you let us know what, in your view, are the issues or the points that you are still, I don't mean uncertain about, but the ones where something might change if the public had something to say about it one way or the other?
Well, we're still, open to, people have expressed strong feelings, some people have expressed strong feelings about whether they wish to have a park or not a park. And as we said, we had not had very many people attend either the hearing or our meetings. We really want to try to, again, publicize this next meeting so that people do have something they want to say about whether they favor a dog park. The other thing that is still up in the air that I'll say is actually finding a location, not only deciding what's an optimal. I think we did mention what we considered an optimal size, but in order to find properties that might be useful for that. So I guess that's what we wanted to hear from you, what you thought we should be looking, if there's more that we should be looking at or things that we have not done.
Well, I would agree with and it's good to hear this, because I read this and, it seemed to be, it's hard, a decision was made, or at least offered, which is why I asked about the level of attendance, because it seems to be lack of community interest was cited as the main reason you were recommending against a dog park in Concord.
One of them.
Well, okay, it was the first one that was first front and center, so, and I don't wanna, mislead the public who's watching with the fact that you also mentioned the need for a site and financing.
Financing is a
I think
strong
the
component.
the cost to the Concord taxpayer is significant enough to make us all think, is there, given the lack of community support, is it really something that Concord wants to spend $250,000 at a minimum? Oh, sorry. I think I boom anyway, so. But I think that was one of our considerations, and I think the idea that this may appear like a final report is only that we really, at least I think I'm speaking for all of us, we really weren't sure what was the procedure, what was the process. We're all fairly new to this, and we knew that we needed to present a report to you tonight, and so we did.
I thought one of the things that I liked about the report is that there was enough information in the report that if in the future there did seem to be a lot of community interest, they could just come to the report and an awful lot of the work has already been done. Some of it might need to be updated, but kind of the process is such that anybody who's going to be reviewing in the future to put in either a multi-use or a standalone dog park would have most of the information here.
Yeah, and I think the careful review of potential
Yes.
property will be really helpful no matter what happens. We've got a fairly good sense of where the property is and what it would be like and the pros and the cons, and so that's the kind of stuff I think that's very important when we will accept your report, and then we have to figure out what the heck to do, but I think that will really be helpful to us.
Well, if I may say just very quickly, we had a lot of input from various town people involved in town, the town manager and the recreation and the town planner, and they were most helpful in giving us a lot of information. Marcia
showed how to use the computer to get all the various sites and
so
kind of the real learning.
So we have a great thank you, a shout out, shall we say, to the town employees for really all the work that they did to make our look at this much easier.
I may have missed this when I read the report, and thank you for all the work in the report.
Is there some place where you can find the totals for the report, the survey that went out to the 650 people early on?
That disappeared.
Well,
Yeah,
the answer is yes, we can. In the report, we had a link to the survey, but the survey owner had to put up or shut up with another year's rental of the Survey Monkey site, and he decided that
It was costly.
it was
Yeah, it was
costly
quite
and he'd
costly.
rather visit his daughter in Australia, so who can blame him? So I think the answer is yes, we have hard copies, so it can be
Okay.
scanned,
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful if that was referenced, and also if
the
you,
whole report.
if the link is no longer available, maybe you can summarize all the results and put it in the appendix.
I absolutely can do that, I mean,
I
well,
think
what
that
am
would
I
be
saying?
helpful,
I'm
because
not
again-
volunteering.
She's been very good at volunteering.
Well, I could just give my copy to you, Tom, and you could.
Yeah.
Do you have any, does it
I
form
can
an
bring it tonight.
electronic copy?
Oh, that,
No, but it's very, I learned it's very easy to do.
Excellent.
You take a document, staples and poof, they make it into a PDF. It's a miracle. So,
Amazing.
We have learned
yes,
so
we can.
much.
and I have that survey, so that's, and ordinarily I would be crawling under the table and heading for the door, but now I know that it's really easy to do. I'm happy to do that. I think the other thing is, this is a very dynamic situation, because every time you turn around, another piece of land pops up. And so this is something that is ongoing, and there may be a time that, and maybe between now and December it'll happen, but I think largely what we've decided is that from what we've looked at, there isn't an appropriate site, there isn't the community interest, and I think that if you think that this is dynamic, and so this is, if we've done nothing else, we hope we did what Tom suggested, which is give a basis for future consideration, where somebody doesn't have to reinvent this wheel. If in the future, next month, next spring, 10 years from now, there's an interest in a dog park, they got something to go from. It's not starting over.
Yeah, it seems like it's a really good blueprint. I mean, you've really done the renderings for what to look for, and as you said, we are a very grateful town, because there's a lot of land that moves in and out of public ownership, and that's, if
I
there's a
think
will.
another point that was important is the cost factor is somewhat balanced by the interest factor. If you get a lot of volunteers, the cost goes down, and it probably has a better result as well, because you have the people who are utilizing it being involved in the running of it. So,
Also, the other side of volunteers is that towns, communities that have workable dog parks have continuing involvement from those groups as well.
Yeah.
And that offsets town, needs for town resources, and also just makes for a better experience.
So I would encourage you to think about a November date, because I think it's going to be very important to try to get as much participation as we can at your next public hearing. And so we should even think a little bit, maybe you folks could think along with Tom as ways that we could publicize this, because I think it's, it's an important thing and for us to get right. And it would be, I think, too bad for you to have done all the work you did, and then after the report comes out, people go, well, what are you talking about? I'm real interested in that. So I would hope to give us as much time as we can to
Very,
get that going.
very good point.
And then when you get ready to write your final report, the only comment I would have here is I had no idea that there were 5 or 7 people from the public. If I read this, I would have thought there was a lot of public input and the public was definitive about what they wanted.
Well, it is in the report, only 7.
Well, I must have missed
I
it,
think,
but
it's hard to know what to stress, but I think the reason we put so much emphasis in the report on community involvement is that there was so little.
No, I get
We
it.
knocked ourselves out to advertise the first public hearing, and I would say that the people who showed up came with an agenda. They definitely came with an agenda, wouldn't you say? And
Yes.
The broader public doesn't seem to be interested in it, and I would say they absolutely should be, because they're the taxpayers. They absolutely should be, and we can't get them for some reason.
Well, no, it
isn't-
is perfectly possible that the public is saying they have no interest in this topic. I mean, that's, you know,
It is interesting. Those who are interested are very interested. It can be a hot button topic with some people, but we don't, even a lot of, I forgot what the exact numbers of dog owners, but even a lot of the dog owners that doesn't come high on their radar about a dog park or walking dogs or where they can and cannot walk dogs. But where people are interested, they're really interested, so. And I don't know how to just inform the rest of the public that they should be thinking about this.
Yeah, if I may add that, for those people, Anne's absolutely right, those people for whom they're interested, they're very, very interested. And I think it needs to be said, as well as written, that largely they were interested in resisting being cut off from Concord open lands. They were resistant to being told, they were afraid that if there were a dog park, then that would be the only place they could take their dogs, and that it would lead to further exclusion from Concord's vast supply of open lands.
So you think that there's a fundamental misperception that a dog park is linked to access to open land for dog owners?
I don't know that I would call it a misperception, but there absolutely is a resistance to the idea of a dog park, purely a strong resistance to the idea of a dog park, if it furthers the elimination of off-leash walking in Concord open land. And one of the points we make in this report is that that's been a privilege of Concord residents since time immemorial. It's been a privilege, and I think there's a very high resistance to having that revoked or cut off or little by little choked off. And to be choked into a dog park is a lot of people's fear. So
But that was never the charge, is my point. It had nothing to do with the charge of the committee or the.
No, but it is one of the things that came out of all our research and our well, even our research, not our research, but our
Meetings,
meetings or our
hearing.
discussions with the public at all. If
The
they were
hearing-
interested,
the
they were
hearing, the
interested.
people who attended the hearing were fairly specific,
Yeah.
that was a major concern, no matter how much one was able to try to dissuade them that was going to happen. Nobody could give an absolute guarantee that it wouldn't.
And, yeah,
It was in the context of other issues that have been going on in the town.
It doesn't surprise me, but I just wanted to stress that
Yes.
we really
no,
are
that's not
talking
our
about-
official charge, exactly
No,
right.
it's not our official charge, but it's what came to us from the public, you know, we can't control that. So in writing our report, we felt we had to reflect that, very, 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 what?
Well, it was like it's a fear.
Correct thought, yeah.
I mean, people stopped me in the grocery store if they knew that I was a member of the committee and just said, you know, what's up, what's going on, or they would just volunteer if I was walking my dog. Then somebody would say, and they would just volunteer. That was their big concern. Yes, our thing was really specifically look at the feasibility of putting a dog park in Concord, but we really felt that, as Kate said, that we need to reflect what the people say about dog parks, their fears.
One of the questions I have is one of your recommendations is the formation of a freestanding committee to serve as a liaison between town interests and dog-related concerns in Concord. Is that a committee, I mean, if there's not an interest in a dog park, do you think there would be an interest in such a committee?
Certainly among dog owners, absolutely, because they would.
And is that something that would be better done by the dog owners as sort of a committee of their own? Or is that something that you see kind of the select board monitoring or appointing?
That's a good question. I think that's something that we would want to discuss. Some communities have, like Arlington, has a very strong dog committee. And I think Gloucester's another one that comes to mind. Carlisle. And I think those are private that were set up. Some towns set up a private one, and they do funding of building a dog park and maintenance. I mean, we were talking about how much to set up a dog park. The other issue is ongoing maintenance.
So, but
And education.
And education.
Yeah. I also think that the way that that kind of committee would work best would be in concert with the town, a real handshake with the town, so that if there are dog issues, whatever they may be, they could be addressed in a within the committee, but also with the town as a participant in that.
So, but I also just want to be really clear that I'm hearing something getting blended here, because I see dog related, again, in the interest of this.
Can you go to page, please?
I'm sorry, it's page 14, the formation of a freestanding committee to serve as a liaison between town interests and dog related concerns in Concord. That's, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that would seem to be a different committee than a dog park. In other words, that's
Yes.
a broader mission.
Yes.
Yes.
And I just want to, again, clarify that the mission right now would have nothing to do with broader dog-related concerns.
Correct.
Absolutely, and that's why it's.
Open lands, any of that.
Which is, I think, why we were recommending that as a
Right,
separate
so that would be
committee
a
at a later
separate
date.
charge, a
Right,
wholly different.
Exactly,
But,
yeah.
but that could
Okay.
also kind of keep an eye on interest
Yeah.
in the future.
Right.
And I think that
So, I don't think we need to continue as a committee beyond this.
And might
report, but
create a trust
might be a need
among
for
the dog owners, if you will, so that in the future, there wouldn't be this perception that it's being used, the dog park's being used to somehow
That's right.
cut off other rights. And
That's
Oh,
that's
I
why
understand the value, I just wanted to be really clear
Yeah.
now.
Well, I think that's where it says not feasible at the present, future, and then you look at may arise, at which time the idea to be revisited. In the meantime, this committee recommends. So it's kind of a, you know.
I mean, we could certainly put that in as an addendum if you don't want it in the body of the committee, because it.
Again, I just want to, because one of the conversations here was about this confusion
Sure.
about goals and charges. I don't want to, you know, I want to make sure that we're still, because we're talking about different sets of goals.
Yeah, good.
I also think this recommendation was meant to, as a way to carry on and to invest in a spirit of cooperation as opposed to divisiveness, to bridge that gap.
Right.
And I think that this freestanding committee idea was really just a way, and is a good idea for doing just that, for having town and citizen cooperation over an issue rather than a divisiveness that has really, it has been a hot button issue, as we all know, and we'd all like to see that there would be more compromise, more reconciliation rather than divisiveness. I think that's been one of the things, because it isn't our charge, but it's come at us everywhere.
Else, would anybody in the public like to make a comment about this, or?
I'd like to make a comment. Yeah, Mark Aylis, 62 Prescott Road. So I'm not a dog owner, but I've followed this to some degree, and I think it's really an excellent piece of work by the committee. I think it really informs some of us who may not have had direct information. Just throwing out a couple thoughts that might help either the committee or the board. It's interesting to notice the, it's kind of surprising lack of interest, although some people had initially expressed a lot of interest in it. I think it's pretty clear from the report that there is no ideal site that's jumping out, at least for a large dog park. Even the 7 sites that kind of filtered through all have significant negatives for them. And then there's this very significant thing about fear of lack of open space and all that. So I think I could mention a couple of things about these things. One is that, with regard to the lack of ideal site, that's something to think about with future site, future land that comes up that's like not already dedicated to a public use, that this could be kind of a little earmarked for one possible thing. With regard to the design of the park and some of these things, there was a comment made by someone at the public hearing, I think, about essentially about dog diversity, that you have small dogs, large dogs, old dogs, active dogs, etc. And their needs may be very different. And so in certain areas, the idea of a little pocket dog park restricted to, smaller or less active dogs is very different. And one last thing, with regard to the lack of public engagement, perhaps there are ways, without sort of sponsoring a Concord dog show or something like that, to think of some dog activities. Again, they maybe have to be segregated effectively for like small, large, old, whatever. But if you had gatherings under sort of some sponsorship of people, then maybe you would set up this kind of public networking that would be more useful in following things in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's a good one.
Thank you. That was actually something we did discuss on the committee, that a future committee could participate in, particularly in conjunction with the Recreation Department or other town groups.
Thank you all very much. Continue the great work. We'll look for the final report.
Well, thank you very much.
I encourage you to work closely with Aaron Stevens to get the notice out widely, once the site is.
We will get to you as.
Notices up all over.
I'm not, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And if anybody could, well, it would be very nice if we could put a large article in the Concord Journal or something promoting this too. So, but they decide whether they're gonna put something in. I think it's valuable, and I'd like to encourage anybody to ask them to think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now to the town manager evaluation goals. I think they were distributed at the August 27th. I don't know whether we need how much of an update.
That's right.
Linda, any questions or comments you might have? Or? Dig in.
There we go.
I think routinely, the board in setting their goals tries to do a great job of hitting all the various areas that we're concerned about in town, whether it be the environment, the energy, protecting our historic assets and so forth. But one place that we fall down, I think, routinely, and it has to do with how we somehow also incorporate our housing, affordable housing goals. And I'm talking about, again, a range of affordable housing. And I'm particularly concerned about that, given that the long-range plan has also taken a lot of time to address that particular issue. And I think Chris has captured that in part without naming it by talking about wanting to make sure that his department heads are addressing the goals of the long-range plan. And there was one other place that you also commented on that, but it's more in a general way, and just the term affordable housing never comes up. And so the balance and equity and diversity section, for me, is missing that. And I don't always want to be the one who's talking about affordable housing because I feel strongly about all the other aspects that are so important to the characteristics of our town. But I can't help but notice that, given that we just received the report of the long-range plan. So that's my only
Well,
comment.
thank you, I think that's a good comment. And, I think affordable housing is one of the trickier areas that
It is.
the board has to, yeah.
It is. But when you see, we need to, every other area, we label, it's called out and we label it. And we-
So I can modify the goals in that section to include that.
But I also was gonna say, and the interesting thing is with affordable housing, it's also a horizontal piece. In other words, it would link to many of the other goals,
As it does in the long-range plan.
as it does in the long-range plan. Because to achieve it, you wanna open many doors, and, you want it to work within our, historic
Absolutely.
districts and within our,
Zoning,
our open
our
space.
zoning codes and everything else.
Absolutely.
Well, we really, I mean, you're right, it's linked to everything, and I think that's good, and, to have it connected there, but it also suffers from not having real goals in the area, other than, ensuring that we have a percentage of. But when you hear folks in town, you or others who talk about affordable housing, they have very strong views about what kind of affordable housing they want in Concord and where affordable housing should go in Concord. So it isn't just meeting some statistical number.
But I think the planning department in particular, they are so skilled at setting goals in other areas, and they can take the leadership there, I think, and help with this.
Well, I would like to see it, we have this committee, again, Mr. Benjamin's committee, who was tasked with coming up with proposals for how we might create a fund for affordable housing. And I was hoping that when that comes to us, that it would get tied up with trying to come up with some kind of affordable housing goals because of, a funding mechanism without something that you're aiming to achieve. If I'm sitting out in the audience trying to know, I'd want to know, here's what we're trying to accomplish, and here's the financial mechanism we're going to use to get there.
I don't disagree with you at all, but I think it starts with
Yeah.
the town manager's goals, that process. Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea, but I guess I'm also suggesting if we could set a time to have Mr. Benjamin come talk to us and see if we could get that ball rolling with trying to get the finance and the goals for affordable housing articulated. We've got people who are very vocal about it, and they have very clear ideas of what's interesting to them. And, I hate for them to come to loggerheads around a particular event, so could try to get some clarity of what we're trying to accomplish. I think that would be a smart thing to do.
And I think that's also, I get a sense that just like in other areas where there's a lot of passion and a lot of interest, there's also a lot of, I'll say, misinformation or lack of understanding of the differences between what constitutes an affordable housing the state would recognize versus what Concord wants. And where we will, that there's some really basic, well-meaning, passionate individuals who don't understand the differences.
So that's a good point, and I started this conversation by saying, I'm talking about the whole range of affordable housing, including what seniors have identified as the many options that they would like to see happen and so forth. So for me, it's beyond the state and federal definitions of the 80% and below.
Exactly,
Right.
and the long-range planning committee has sort of laid it out in broad strokes. I think, one of the things we have the obligation to do is now, from that long-range planning report, grab those things that we really want to highlight, get them squared away, and so we can get on with it. Right? So I just think that's just one.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see how the special town meeting, the discussion on Article 12, which has to do with the affordable housing in lieu of credits, acceptance of gifts.
That's a perfect
Because-
example,
yeah.
because if we had a goal
Right.
Yeah.
that was well articulated, people were going, yeah, then this would be relatively easy.
Right.
It would be either in line with the goal
Yeah.
or it wouldn't. And we wouldn't be having a particular debate around these two
Yeah.
units, or in the Giroux
Yeah.
land, that
Right.
one
Yeah.
unit. We could, so I think
Yeah.
we really ought to do this, and we're gonna keep having these
Yeah, no, I agree.
issues that, pits us against, other citizens in town for whom we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well, I think it
Yeah.
also will make it easier for us to see the opportunities that float by, housing that comes into the inventory or on the market, that there might be an opportunity to make to put on our list that we hadn't considered before.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not just a Concord issue, it's a statewide and in many ways a national issue.
It is,
But I know
but
the
the town
state-
has articulated,
Yes.
it is very important to its
Yeah.
long-range plan, and it's gonna be, we have to get that whole plan on
Right.
our agenda too, but,
Yeah,
as it comes with any of those issues, once we have identified them as the 4 or 5 that we really wanna focus our attention on, we gotta get a plan put together here so we can.
well, I know, Linda, you've sent an email to the chair of the committee, the Affordable Housing Funding Committee, and I've also done so.
Yeah, asking them to, finish their report and bring it
Yeah.
to us as.
I think initially, at one point, there was some feeling on their part, they wanted kind of a preliminary response from us. And I think the feeling was, no, why don't you come to us with you're the ones that looked into this, come to us with your thoughts, and then can give you a reaction. But,
It was, well, yes, my particular concern, I thought what we saw, they did a
Right.
terrific job.
Yeah.
But I guess my hope was that doing the hard work that they did to articulate different ways we could go about this, that they would have a point of view
Right,
about which one they thought, given the town, the finances of the town, we should best consider.
yeah,
And, it's that kind of recommendation in addition to their work, like the dog park did. They did their work, but they also had a pretty clear,
yeah,
don't do it.
So we've attempted to, again, request
Yeah.
that of them, and so that we'll wrap up the report and get it to us.
Right.
Yeah.
thank you. Which does now lead us into the special town meeting articles, which I think hopefully we have that in,
Lemon yellow.
very fancy yellow binder here.
You have a separate sheet with the list of articles
Yeah.
and the likely presenters or the proposed presenters.
Excuse me, Chris, did we need to take any action on the town manager evaluation?
Actually, it would make sense to either delay approving the goals until I modify that one, or
Adopt.
approve it
Adopt
with
it.
that one.
I would.
And I can give you some language, what I
That would also be the town manager evaluation.
Right,
So-
yeah.
So I would move that we accept the town manager evaluation and the goals as presented with the addition that was articulated tonight about affordable housing.
second.
All those in favor, or any comments, or?
My comment is just to commend the town manager for a job well done.
So why don't we? I think we'll take a vote and we'll, all those in
On
favor,
Linda's commendation or on our?
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I didn't think we could close that conversation.
Thank you.
I've learned through the years that some of Mike's asides are best left aside.
Yeah, I try to whisper them to you, but somehow.
So we'll get back to the special town meeting articles. We do have the table of contents. There are 13 of them, so it'll be interesting to see whether we get them all done in one night.
Oh, come on.
And what-
Let's make our best efforts
Absolutely.
there.
And
I mean, as
Carl-
long as the schools don't take too long.
Carlisle has scheduled a special town meeting on the following night, Tuesday,
Oh,
which will be a challenge for the Minuteman Media Network, the town.
Are they gonna use the Concord Carlisle High School?
No, but they have to coverage, we'll have to provide coverage for their town meeting, so not just.
so we're
the
learning
first
as we
day,
go with our new, media.
And in the past, there was only one town meeting could be cablecast live, but I think because only one could use the government channel, but I think we'll commit one of the other channels to cover it. If we don't finish the first night, both towns are having town meeting on October 2nd, then we should be able to cover both towns.
Whether anybody has any questions or comments about,
And one question I had was at the hearing, does the board wish to make any presentations at Wednesday's hearing or at town meeting? I'm happy to make the presentation. School committee's going to cover Articles 6 and 7. I think the school superintendent is going to do the 2 high school articles. Marcia has agreed to, the presenter is over there, so she's gonna do number 3, which is the zoning bylaw related to W.R. Grace. Number 10, the state grant for transportation services, and the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail 13, I think, is Marcia's. But there's 2 opportunities for the select board to make presentations, if you're interested, and I'm happy to do them as well. One was on the town funding for the town manager search, and the second one was the legal services.
Well, you shouldn't do that.
Okay, that's
You
fine.
shouldn't.
I shouldn't do them,
No,
okay.
should not. Okay.
So I'm happy to do any and all of those,
So
or.
I have
if
a
the board-
question about the sheet here, which I'm sure it's just my thick head. It says like for article number 1, the presenter is the finance committee. And I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that's a misprint.
So,
That should be.
Yeah, I think that this, for this version was.
just,
So everywhere it says finance committee, it should say
Yeah.
town manager.
Yeah.
I think the finance committee has a hearing on it, and I think you just.
Yeah,
It
that
would
was
be
carried
there.
over, that was carried over from the
it
hearing
would be
schedule.
their hearing.
Okay, yes.
Their hearing, yes, that's
Fine,
where it
thank you.
carried over.
I think it probably makes sense, we should put something together, an explanation perhaps on the legal services, written. I think that will potentially raise some issues and sort of questioning as to, what funds we anticipate and the difficulty of having any certainty in terms of what cost to put them in.
So I'll plan to do the legal services, and then we'll see what kind of questions we get. Okay.
And then we need to, I assume, there'll be a rabid fight over which one. I assume it will be you, Tom.
Article 8.
Article 8, yeah, Tom, you should,
Yeah.
you should do that.
Great.
I'm thinking, number 12, are we ready to move to that point? I heard Marcia say the other day in a meeting that Liz Rust was charged with coordinating all the housing groups. So should she be the one who introduces 12? Either that or Marcia.
So Marcia is planning again to do 3 on the zoning question, 10 on transit, and 13 on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail easement. She wasn't planning to do Black Birch, and I would not be a good choice for that. It's complicated. It'd be challenging for me to explain, I think, but I'm happy to do that. So I don't know whether you'd prefer that I ask Marcia.
Well, I'm hearing
whether it's
Linda
Liz.
ask about Liz Rust.
I'm sorry, Liz. So let me see if Liz can do that.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't have any problem with Liz doing it as a person, but she's a regional housing director, and this is a particular.
yeah. Well, the reason I suggested that route was one, because of Marcia's comment the other day that she saw Liz Russ as the person coordinating all the housing groups for the town of Concord. Liz does staff the,
DHCD,
yeah,
Concord Housing Development Corporation.
right,
Yeah.
right. Of which there is a Blackbird's interest, so.
Yep.
Committee member, so it's,
Yeah,
And she's also a resident in
I have
town,
absolutely
so-
no problem with her doing it.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so I'll ask her.
And if she's comfortable, if not, maybe she has a suggestion to somebody else.
right.
But it would be accurate to say that the board is the sponsor of the article.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
allowed these articles on the warrant.
I think it's gonna be difficult if there isn't someone introducing
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's the only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
there's probably.
so for presenters 1 through 13, is it Chris? Then number 2 is
It's also me.
Chris. Marcia,
Marcia.
Chris,
Yes.
Chris.
Yep.
Lori,
Yeah.
Tom.
Tom.
Chris,
Yep.
Marcia, Chris, Liz, Marcia.
Correct.
Excellent.
Any further discussion, or are we all set on that?
Is there, have we asked the moderator if there's anything she would, are there a couple of articles that she could get on a consent calendar? I mean, she wouldn't do it until after the public hearing, I'm sure, but
Is she thinking about that?
might be thinking about that if we could get a couple of these rascals out of the way. Might save us
Yeah.
some time. Mr. Tarpey has his hand up.
Has to be Tarpey.
You wanna just come forward to Tom?
Sure. Tom Tarpey, Chair of the Finance Committee, but speaking on my own behalf. I'm wondering if any of you older government hands could tell me, and I mean of longer length of service, not necessarily.
Not elderly,
Watch
but
it.
not elderly.
If you could tell me where this warrant, this special town meeting warrant, falls on the spectrum of warrants in terms of number of articles. Is this?
That's the longest special town meeting warrant I've seen. It would be more typical for it to be 4 or 5 articles.
Right. So my question leads to this. I personally have a bias that's not deeply founded for having town business handled at regular town meeting rather than at special town meeting. And are there any actions that we should take if this, maybe this is just an outlier, if there won't be any trend, but I would hate to see special town meetings start cropping up and
So,
being,
So would we.
maybe even taking more than one night, which is kind of horrifying. So, just a topic for, it's an open
no,
question for
it's
discussion.
a great question, we started this because we had a particular article or two that had to get done.
Right.
And then once you open the warrant, there you are.
There's no fair way to discourage people from,
Well, you notice there are no citizen,
Petitions.
because those, there were some rumblings that there might be, and we did do a little discouraging in that aspect of it. But-
Well, I'd actually say we encouraged those citizens to think about the value
Right.
of annual town meeting as a much bigger, a much bigger discussion.
right,
Much better expressed.
I think the same comment applies to those in town departments. And so I would think that unless there is an overarching reason why something needs to be done on an expedited basis, that items should be left to regular town meeting rather than happening at special town meeting. Thank you.
And I think all of the ones that we put forward came out of directly from us were things that had to get done. Supplemental appropriations and the eminent domain issues were the ones, over the others that I think were opportunistic. I don't mean that in a negative way, but took advantage of the fact that we were.
And the WR race, it was decided to do 3 sessions rather than 1.
Three articles.
Very complicated
Same
article.
thing to to a degree with the White Pond, but
But, 8, 9,
Yeah.
10, and 11 are all appropriation of funds that were necessary to be done now.
If I could
Yes,
make a
please.
little comment, Tarpey again. Would it be possible to ask the moderator if she could set a schedule for these various warrant articles so that we could perhaps make a very strong attempt to get this done in one night? Kind of limiting debate on certain less debate-worthy topics.
She'll be there Wednesday, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I'll make a comment then.
yeah, definitely.
Great. We'll move on then to the nomination for Boston Regional Metropolitan Planning Association municipal elections. I believe we've got a document dated August 27th. And these, we usually don't have somebody necessarily from the town to,
It's usually the chair is authorized to cast a ballot on behalf of the town for, and I'm sorry, for one city candidate and one town, I think. And is it Bedford or that's the?
Bedford.
yeah.
I was looking for our support.
Right.
Do we want to, should there be a motion to that degree to allow such broad discretion in single individuals?
I move to grant the chair of the select board the power to nominate for the Boston Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization municipal election for the town of Concord.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now we move to public comments. Do we have anybody who'd like to make a public comment? Please come forward. Good evening, if you again just identify yourself.
Hi, good evening. Jerry Susi from 770 Main Street. I'm here in my capacity as a death nurse to give you an update on some things we talked about last time we got together in early August. So the event itself is established, the dates are established, the 2nd, the 18th, and the 31st. The speakers, the films, etc. The sticky part was a venue, so it's now being held in a private home. Very difficult to find space in town for the same night or for 3 nights in the same month, less than 6 weeks ahead, so planning better next time. But that also kind of forced kind of a change in the structure, I guess, of the event. So if one model is to have an auditorium with a program and people come and fill the seats and you attend and then you leave, this is taking the form more of a salon or a think tank, that the people attending will be people that we've canvassed, that we've spoken to, and that are interested in this for themselves, but also perhaps in doing something. I mean, an example would be if someone from one of the churches was part of a group that's trying to decide, how do we approach this within our own faith community? Oh, there's this program in Concord, why don't I go to that, see what it's about, and I'll come back and maybe that'll give us some ideas. Or maybe I'll meet some other people who are also interested in this topic. So that's the form that it's taking. In terms of attendees, we're looking at between 40 and 60. So we can handle that comfortably, and it also makes it a more kind of personal, intimate discussion. So one of the reasons I'm here really is to extend the invitation to you, to each of you as members of the select board, and through you, town administration, the committees and departments and so forth, because this is, I think, ultimately a matter for the town. This is a discussion that's taking place away from a hospital or away from a school, and ideally is taking place out in the community where it needs to. Because how every community addresses serious illness and end of life and care after death really reflects that community. I attended the cemetery committee meeting last week, and I gotta tell you, it was great because we were sitting around a table talking about this stuff, and everybody wanted to. We weren't just being polite and tolerating me and waiting for the next thing. Because it's an uncomfortable topic, it absolutely is. But there's a lot that can come out of that. So it's an invitation to you and through you to the town, or to the structure of the town, but it's also an invitation to you as individuals, because we all have spouses, siblings, parents, children, and this touches us. Serious illness, Alzheimer's specifically, it's hard to look very far without finding someone who hasn't been touched by it. So all of us as individuals have something to gain by bringing the conversation out in the open and keeping it going. There'll be more to come. I just got the artwork for the promotional materials. We're starting to do some canvassing
You have the dates already arranged?
Yes, yes. So
So this is all in October, October 2nd, 18th,
the 2nd, the 18th, and the 31st, right? And that's been the approach from the start. I mean, I'm bound kind of by the speaker's availability and commitments. And that'll be the focus, certainly, of the local promotional materials is, this is the place, this is the time, here's how to register, because it is a registration required.
Is it an open meeting? I mean, you gave me a number, and that's important to note.
Yeah.
Because there are quorums that could then be unintentionally formed attending. If it's, in other words, if it's at somebody's home,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing a cap, which would be natural. I mean, not everybody has a home that could.
Yeah, capacity of the
town
house.
meeting.
Yep.
But that therefore changes the open meeting from a public perspective.
Well, you're right, that it's not in a public space, the doors are open, come in if you choose to, don't, right. Yeah, so it does, it is more of, I call it invitation, but if someone came and said, hey, I heard about this, I'm interested, then that would be fine too.
Private event.
Right, exactly, that's my
So,
point.
yeah, more like a high school graduation or college graduation. I mean, that's how I'm thinking of it when I'm thinking of the scale and how to lay it out.
Right, but when you invited the select board, through
oh.
us, all the other boards
Ah.
and committees, I saw a,
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't want to do anything like that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for-
All right.
Anybody else, move on to liaison report. Again, Linda?
I attended the Giroux site visit that was open to the public for the initial layout of the recreation plan, and there was very hot evening, but it was well worth being there to do the sidewalk and hear the potential plans for the site. There were good questions from people, both about the recreation plan and also about housing. I also attended a CPC meeting, and this was their second informational meeting, and they had, I think 13 town projects, most of which we've already heard about. And they also had an additional project from the library corporation for their new capital campaign in that building. And the deadline is September 21st for the CPC applications, so there still may be others that come in. I attended a Concord Housing Authority meeting. They were discussing some of the housing-related issues on the table right now, including the Giroux property and other opportunities. And they were looking forward to a joint meeting, I think, with all the housing groups later this month, if I remember correctly. I, along with other people, attended Ag Day. That was a wonderful event, as always. And just before this meeting tonight, I attended the Council on Aging, and they're looking for an additional member for the Council on Aging board. So if anyone is interested, please get your green card in. They spent they covered a number of things, but they spent the majority of time talking about the ways in which issues for the Council on Aging and seniors in town are represented in the long-range plan, including emphasis on the demographic, increasing demographic of seniors in town, and how we're going to have to, their point of view is that all the towns, committees and towns are going to have to be constantly reminded of that in terms of how that impacts the work that they're doing. And they also commented on housing options, including those in the community who want to age in place and the resources that might be necessary for them, as well as auxiliary housing opportunities. And that concludes my.
You were busy though.
Yes.
Well, I have no official liaison, but what I wanted to stress, Tom had mentioned the educational program that we're going to be doing here on October 20th with participation from the town clerk, the town moderator, and the chair of the select board. And that will be terrific. I'd like to thank the Ag Committee and the Rec Department and other town committees for all the work they did to make the Ag Fair, really nice. And that was, I was going to mention, that was a dog event. The place was crawling with dogs. It was great. And we got about 10, I think, green cards. Thanks a lot to Jane's bringing along her new puppy, which was very attractive in getting people to our table. I also wanted to say that our friends from Nanai, our sister city in Japan, will be visiting us again at the end of October. And I think in the townhouse, they're going to be meeting with hopefully the town manager and whomever from the select board on October. I think it's October 30th. I'll get the dates. And as you know, they just had a significant earthquake in Hokkaido, but it was not near Nanai. It was further north, but nevertheless, it was a pretty disastrous one. And then a plug. I got from Andrew a hard copy of the long-range plan. And while I'd seen a lot of it and read it online, I had the actual report. It's just really impressive. So I mean, folks ought to get a copy of that and take a look at it. It's really an impressive document. So the committee should just be very proud of it. So.
What can be purchased for $52?
Yes. Free online.
Free online, yeah, in color. It's just terrific.
And I think there's copies in the library. And
Like, I find it's easier if I've got something online is fine, but I can't go back and forth as easy.
There's something different about reading just sequentially on a screen and then having this thing in your hand. It was really an impressive document. So that's mine.
I attended the Board of Assessors meeting, and I'm always impressed by how complicated actually it all is in terms of trying to come up with a rational, fair system for assessing the different regions and making sure that it kind of all balances out. They break it down according to the style of the property, the location, the size, the lot size, the sales price, all sorts of different ways. And fortunately, it sounds as if taxes will be going up, but they won't be going up in a shocking amount. And I think that they did go into the executive session regarding the means test senior exemption applications. I believe they ended up with 60 of them.
Wow.
So they're working on that, and I think that will lead them, since it's the first year they're doing it. It'll be interesting to see how that goes forward. But they've got a very interesting group because it requires a certain amount of specialized knowledge be on that committee and understand what's going on. And one of the members had attended, I believe he said it was a 40-hour workshop to get down.
And again, these are all volunteer committees,
Yeah.
which is just one of the amazing things about our
And
town.
I think there was an aspect of it which also was in its employment area, but only
It's
an
the 40
aspect.
hours.
Yeah, only an aspect, exactly, and he paid for it, so. But they do great work. I think they're gonna be coming 24th, yeah. One of the issues that they have is with the senior means test, the amount of tax that residential property will have, because that has to come out of the residential property side, will be slightly higher than the commercial property. And that would increase each year, and the question is, then how do they kind of even that out? And they're gonna be looking into that issue.
If they had 60 applicants, I mean, of course, you don't know the nature of the
Right.
tax bill there, but my recollection is they were estimating it could be up to 125 that they could have received. So 60 sounds like a pretty good first-year number. But probably isn't high enough to trigger because it's a max, remember, 1/2 of 1% is a cap. So I suspect, I don't know, but suspect that we won't hit the cap then on that, so it's interesting. Good.
That was mine.
And I'll use that as a segue to, well, I wasn't, to reporting on the tax relief committee, because this is one of the committees that, it will be dovetailing its work with the senior means test as well as the Hugh Cargill fund. They're getting ready to do a joint town-wide solicitation for funds. Again, this committee has been available. I'm not actually sure how long it's been in. Is it about 15 years? Longer?
At least
This is Stan Black's.
Stan Black
Yeah,
committee. Well, actually, I think it's now
somebody else's.
Helena Long's
Oh.
committee. But point is, it's one of the many ways that Concord's more affluent homeowners and residents are able to assist those who live in Concord who can't meet all of the increasing tax burdens. And it always amazes me, the generosity of folks in Concord. And we are lucky to have this balancing act right now of, you know, the different points of.
Jane, did they, one of the issues was with this new tax relief coming online, that this would perhaps relieve some of the burden for seniors, which hopefully it will. And was there any discussion of whether their solicitation would be broadened beyond tax relief to provide for general relief for folks, or?
I've only seen a draft of the solicitation at this point, so I'm not entirely clear, and I know that they're waiting to discuss this with the Hugh Cargill.
Yeah.
And I think
Takes till
they're
Wednesday.
meeting Wednesday, so I think this is still, I'm being a little premature in complimenting that this is a solicitation that will be going out.
I'll be at the Hugh Cargill
Right, but
meeting.
it's not finalized, so.
And then the Tax Fairness Committee is meeting, I think, this Friday. That's the committee that teed up this.
Yeah.
Right, right, so we've got these three different points of effort.
Yeah.
To assist those who are burdened by our taxes. I also attended the NRC's most recent meeting, and not to forget, because I often bury this, and I would love to figure out a way that we can maybe promote regularly on our town website the number of standing commissions and committees that are looking for, that have holes. Because sometimes those holes exist for periods of time, and the NRC, there is a hole, and it's, you know, in a sense, it's preventing a longstanding member from going off the committee, and that's not fair. He's more than served his time.
Are those committees flexible in terms of the dates that they meet, whether it's a kind of each weeknight, 'Cause I had received somebody who's interested, and then I got a follow-up saying that he couldn't do it because they met Wednesday nights and he had another commitment.
I would imagine they're pretty set, because this is town staff, and these are not.
People who've been on the committee for years,
For
they've
years,
got
yeah,
their
this is- yeah,
week
this is-
organized.
That would be sort of like saying, do you wanna be on the select board? Well, Monday nights don't work for me, but when the select board changes its night, I'll be happy to run.
I sure have tried that.
The options were there, thank you for teeing that one up. Of course, the thing is, Tom and Linda are the only ones that are up for, that will have the benefit of this in a second term. But, the NRC did then, vote to, approve its 50-foot, no build zone, update, and, there was a discussion of, the 430 Old Bedford Road, notice of intent application. Interestingly, it's not going to, it was to be continued to the 26th, yet there was a discussion about it at the NRC, and there's clearly a lot of concern about the impact of the, proposed eight buildings, or 8 units. And I know that there may have actually already been the site visit, but the site visit was under discussion, and whether or not it would be an open meeting, which it was. But it was also a good place to remind everybody that that's not a meeting with the public, there's no debate engaged. This is a fact, just like all site visits, it's a fact finding, where it's not a public meeting that's just moved its venue. Then really it was a lot of cleanup. I would say the meteor issues are coming. They weren't necessarily on the docket for this. Magic, our regional coordinating Minuteman Advisory Group on interlocal coordination, met. And while I have to own the fact that I had to duck out for another meeting, we elected our new officers, and it was discussion of our regional biking walking tours. I have a phenomenal map, which is just, it's really amazing when you look at what we have access to in this area for bike and walking trails in our 16 different communities. It makes me want to connect all of them. And there's an effort to do that. There was also discussion about the taxi initiative, and I know that's coming up in our the Council on Aging in Sudbury is taking the lead on that from Magic, and I believe they've just received a grant for that. I always note the number of opportunities Concord has, potential to apply for grants for, and this is certainly one. And then we discussed just other forms of partner exchange. But if anybody is ever interested, it's always a fascinating meeting. It's a way of finding out what our neighbors are doing and how we're working together. I think too often we get stuck in more contentious, conversations, and really we're all one big community. And then the other meetings were the Bruce Green Rail Trail, which I, again, was not able to meet because it met at the same time as the NRC, or maybe it was the HDC. But the one point of interest that I thought was fascinating as somebody who's using the Bruce Green Rail Trail as it ends in starts in Acton, is that Sudbury has now gone to 100%. So that next phase will be joining. The West Concord Junction Council on Cultural Council, thank you, I'm losing my word, also met, and October 20th is going to be West Concord Day, so that's going to be a busy day. And there'll be a number of bands playing in quite a few places. There's a big effort to engage the artist population, as there have been in the past, but I think this is really getting far more coordinated. And I look forward to seeing how Concord Center's cultural district comes in. And I want to give a shout out to the Chamber of Commerce because they've got very involved in both efforts, and I think that's
Right, yeah.
wonderful. And then finally, the HDC, the Historic Districts Commission, voted and moved forward with the final lighting proposals for our new supermarket. And that had been discussed at some length in previous meetings.
You're gonna have torches or?
I think they found a point, there were only, I think, the point of, to be worked out was the sign, the actual signage lighting, because there are now a number of signs. But, again, sometimes these meetings can get very hot under the collar, but we live in a town that has benefited from strong wetlands protection and strong historic districts experience and knowledge. And if you look at, going back to the long-range plan, you look at where the town survey puts our greatest asset, the things that we hold most dearly, our historic nature and our historic image and values, as well as open space, are two of, and our two most valued pieces. So that's not.
That's all?
That's all.
Thank you, Jane.
I might say that,
I need to come up to the
Yeah.
microphone.
the NRC walk of 430 Old Bedford Earth. Yeah.
And you need to, I'm sorry, identify.
Oh, I'm
yourself.
sorry. Ann Humphrey, 468 Old Bedford Road, just up the street from there. They're going to be walking at 8 o'clock on Friday morning. It was a request that because the whole NRC committee had not actually seen the prop site, the planning board had done a walk, but not the NRC. And so again, there's to look at the site and the issues around it. So just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you. Miscellaneous correspondence. Anybody have anything to report?
Just the Eagle Scout.
The which?
The Eagle Scout.
I did that.
Already did that, yeah, I did that. Yeah. I also, though, I did get a letter from Colonel Ellsworth of the Hanscom Air Force Base, just basically saying that he looks forward to working with the select board in the town of Concord, and that invites us and fellow select board members to identify and share opportunities for working together in the future. A very nice letter, so I thought I would just respond thanking him for reaching out. So I guess we now move to committee nominations.
Right. I move to nominate Betsy Levinson of 124 Neshoba Road to the Concord Local Cultural Council.
And I don't think we have to vote on nominations, so we'll move now to appointments.
I move to appoint Lucy Rosborough of Roseboro of 56 Elm Street to the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee for an unexpired term to expire May 31st, 2019. Ruth Lauer of 100 Kais Road, number 323, to the PEG Access Advisory Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I guess now we just can move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Swift.